and I'm going to go ahead and get going now. So thank you very much for joining us. We're here to talk about taking the mystery out of marketing metrics. I am the president of L2M Associates, a marketing strategy firm in Northern California, and I'm very pleased to have Roger Best here with us today. Roger is an emeritus professor of marketing at the University of Oregon. He's also a recognized expert in the measurement of marketing performance and its impact on corporate profitability. He was the developer of the Marketing Excellence Survey benchmarking tool and the MarkProf Marketing Profitability Program, as well as the author of several textbooks on marketing, including the recently released Marketing Metrics Handbook. He's trained over 70 teams to date in team-based actionable learning, which has resulted in a more than 100-to-1 return in terms of new profit opportunities. So we're very glad to have you here today. Thank you, Roger, for being here.
Thank you.
Okay. I just want to let attendees know we're going to keep you muted for the majority of the webinar today so that Roger can go through his presentation. If you have any questions, please feel free to submit them by typing, and then at the end we will open up the phone lines and you'll be able to ask questions as well. So I'm going to turn this over to Roger right now, and hopefully you'll be able to go ahead and take the keyboard and mouse and tell us a little bit about what you've done here. First, I want to ask you, Roger, give us a brief overview on what led you to create this the Marketing Metrics Digital Handbook and to get into this whole area of marketing metrics and taking it in a new direction.
Well, thanks, Linda. I guess it started out as an engineer at General Electric Company, really not knowing anything about business as well as marketing, and became a product manager and was intrigued by the whole aspect of marketing. And eventually, well, while at GE, obtained an MBA and was attracted even more to marketing. And I love marketing and the opportunity for creativity and all the excitement of being where the front line is, or the interface with the customer. But what always bothered me, and maybe it's because of the engineering orientation, was a lack of specificity. An example, people often throw out the word customer value, and as if we know what that is. I mean, it's a great word, or even sometimes customer satisfaction. But the idea of being able to actually tie that down, it's sort of got me started on this whole idea of marketing measurements, and now what today is called marketing metrics. So let me move to another slide, which can maybe embellish that point. It's not moving, Linda. Maybe you could advance a slide for me.
Here we go.
Okay. First of all, metrics are everywhere. You know, we get in our car, we see miles per gallon, speed speedometers, oil temperature gauges, although we might not look at it, revolutions per minute, gas tank positioning. And of course, when we go to the doctor, you know, our body temperature, blood pressure, of course, goes on. It includes many other things they might find in a diagnostic analysis of our blood chemistry. So there are metrics in business, in our everyday life, and in marketing, there are also metrics. And I think the purpose of today's session is to really get past what it seems to be a perceived barrier of how do I use these, where do I get started, and how can I use them when I don't know what the data requirements are, or maybe it's too expensive. So I've listed below here, you know, like market share, 10%. It's an index that tells us where we are relative to the market that we're serving. Obviously, 10% versus 80% sends a different signal in terms of how you might manage your market share. The next one, relative market share, is just your share divided by the share of the market leader. And a 1.0 means that even if you have 10%, it could be a very fragmented market where 10% is the market leader and you're tied for that position. And on down the list, these are all marketing metrics that you may or may not use depending on your interest. Something like customer retention, if it's 67%, that means we're losing 33% of our customers each year. So these are important for marketers to be able to, you know, have as ways of understanding their performance. And our goal today is to really try to simplify or take away this perceived complexity around the world of marketing metrics.
Now, I find this interesting, Roger, because if I think about the medical metrics that you mentioned, if you go to the doctor, we expect to have blood tests done, we expect to have our blood pressure measured, maybe our heartbeat or our temperature, and yet it's not that measurement itself that is that drives everything. It's more, that becomes more of a key into having a diagnostic type of ability. So you still need a practitioner. You still need someone like a doctor who knows what to do with that and knows how that metric should be and how it compares over time to where we were before. So a cholesterol level of 200, if it used to be 280, is a good thing, and if it used to be 150 is a bad thing. And that's where you still require someone, in our case would be a marketing professional, to come in and really help us understand what tasks to take or what actions to take next.
Right, and each of these metrics tells a story. In other words, if the retention is 67% and the customer life is 3 years, and you take a little one step further in terms of estimated lifetime value and it's minus $50, that means as much as you might like that customer, they're not profitable.
Right.
These are all important insights, just like, you know, if your blood pressure is 200 instead of 120.
Exactly.
Another point to make here is marketing metrics are external, and many of which are forward-looking. And in some ways, the marketers, professionals, and marketing executives have responsibility to the corporation, and you actually could say to shareholders, to have that insight into how are we performing outside the company, not just inside the company. And something like customer intentions to repurchase is a forward-looking marketing metric. If it's going south on you, it might be great that your sales and profits were good last year, but they're not going to be good maybe at the end of this year. And most financial metrics are internal, what I call backward-looking. In other words, it tells us what happened after a period of time, not what's going on in the marketplace. Another point here is that there is a need. A survey by Booz Allen is very striking, and that CEOs feel that marketing lacks the performance metrics to credibly articulate, if you read the quote below, the value of its contribution to the enterprise. And the goal today is to give you some metrics you can use today that are so easy that we don't have to go out and collect data, become overly concerned about complexity. We can answer that question in an hour from now. One of the problems in marketing metrics, it may be true for any metric, but there is sort of a fear of imperfect information. And in marketing, we're often working with estimates, judgments, our best guesses, and that's okay. And I put down here, start here. You as a manager or marketing professional have an insight that's relevant, and it's a great starting point. It doesn't mean we can't revise it as we interact with others, and maybe revise a group estimate to maybe internally validate our thinking across a team or organization. And if it's really important, it's a metric we really want to make sure we have everything right on from an external point of view. We can commission a research project to validate our perceptions and beliefs to make sure that they're in line with the way the customers think and the market is reacting. So my first point today is let's put aside perfect information and be willing to, in our own little world, operate with imperfect information just to get the process started. And we can then worry about accuracy as we need it moving forward. I'm going to start with 3 marketing profitability metrics following the theme of the Booz Allen survey, the quote at the bottom, being able to articulate what your contribution is to the organization. There's 3 metrics. One's called net marketing contribution, marketing ROI, and marketing ROS. And it's going to be fairly simple and painless, and a lot of the slides I'll show after I get the metrics out there are really just demonstrating the value of these 3 metrics. Okay, what do we need? Okay, 3 things. And whether it's a company, a market, a product, a segment, a subsegment, we need to know the sales, approximately the kind of gross margin we're obtaining for that definition of business, and the marketing and sales expenses that we have invested to produce that level of sales. And of course, it might depend on your channel or a whole variety of things. One of the first stumbling blocks that people have is they don't know the marketing and sales expenses. Or if you do know them, fine. If you don't, then we have a rule of thumb here where if you do know your sales general administrative expense, at least at the corporate level, then if you take 75% of that, that is a good estimate for getting started for the marketing and sales expenses for a product, a market, or a company. And of course, if it's different, we can make that modification subsequently down the road. But to get started, let's make our best guesses and not get hung up here because we don't have one number. We revise it very easily. This is it. This is all we need to compute the marketing profitability metrics for Apple. I did this at the company level, but I'll show you how we can do it for any product in the Apple portfolio, as well as any region or market they serve or product line. So Apple sales in 2009 were $36.5 billion. Their gross margin was 36%, and they spent $3.1 billion in attaining that $36.5 billion. Now, of course, it wasn't just marketing and sales expenses. Their innovation and engineering and all the people that went together to make that sales is not just marketing. But Jack Welch once said, the CEO of GE, marketing isn't somebody's job, it's everybody's job. And obviously the engineers and product managers that have more customer insight are going to build better iPads and iPods and Mac computers than if they sat solely by themselves talking to each other. So Apple produced, you might say, after you account for the marketing and sales investment, $10 billion in contribution to the organization as a result of all of its efforts to achieve a certain level of sales with a product portfolio. The second metric, marketing ROI, gets easier. It's that net marketing contribution of $10 billion divided by what we spent, the $3.12 billion. It's just a ratio of output, marketing profits, to input, marketing and sales expenses. So Apple was 325%. And marketing ROS, the third metric there, is simply a percent of sales. The net marketing contribution of $10 billion is 27.5% of sales. That means every dollar of sales, 27.5% or 27.5 cents is marketing profits. So those are metrics that help us index what we produced after we account for the marketing and sales budget, which could go up or down depending on the company's situation.
Roger, can I stop you there for a second?
Sure.
This information that you got from Apple, did you get this, was this any internal information, or did you get this directly from their publicly available information?
This is right off their publicly available information.
Okay, so I think that's important to tell that we can do this kind of calculation with just the information that's in an annual report, and you can do it for your competitors or your clients as well as for yourself.
That's a good point, Linda. And I'll show more about that in a second. But yeah, this is all public information that we have right here in front of us. I think I have to help me turn the slide.
Let's see if we can get that. There we go.
Okay. Maybe to put this in a little more perspective, Apple's net marketing contribution, the orangish yellow bar of $10 billion, was the total cash produced after the marketing expenses. Everything after that is expense. So when we deduct general administration, other expenses, which includes research and development, interest and taxes, what's left over is a $5.7 billion in somehow, Linda, we just jumped.
I just jumped around. I apologize there.
Okay.
Let me get you back to where you need to be. My apologies.
Okay.
There we go.
Yep, thank you.
There we go.
There we go. So I'm trying to make the case here that the total marketing profits, if you accept that definition, is an important metric, because if next year's Apple's net marketing contribution is $11 billion, than if they can control other expenses, which aren't always easy. That means the net profit should go up. Obviously, if the Apple net marketing contribution went down to 9, it would be a tough year to maintain profits. The other point here is the relationship at Apple for the last 10 years between net marketing contribution and operating income. Oops. Okay. Here we go. This slide here, again, at the top, we have the stock price and the net profits and earnings per share. Obviously, a lot of that we have no control over, but the net marketing contribution is a significant factor that's contributing to the overall profit and shareholder value of Apple. And using the same 3 metrics that I presented, that can be measured at the product line level, like Macs, iPods, iPhones, iPads, iTunes, etc. And it can be measured all the way down to, let's say, laptop A has a net marketing contribution. When we add them all up, it adds to $10 billion in net marketing contribution for the company. So we can use the 3 metrics I showed you, sales, percent margin, and marketing and sales expenses at any level to compute 3 metrics, net marketing contribution, marketing ROI, and marketing ROS. This diagram, this chart over to the left, is just a plot of Apple, the big blue dot in the middle, and then all the 6 other product lines that are estimated for Apple based on marketing ROI and marketing ROS. We can actually break down marketing ROI, net marketing contribution into more manageable pieces, and this is probably going a little bit beyond the scope of today's session, but I didn't want to leave you hanging with just a metric of 10 billion, or for the Mac strategy in 2009, roughly 9 billion. That 2.9 billion came from a certain size market, a share, an average selling price, a certain kind of channel discount, a certain unit cost, and a certain specific marketing budget. And what I showed below is if they could build their market share to 5%, they would improve their net marketing contribution considerably in the process. Oops. One last slide before we move on. What is a good marketing ROI? And again, I hope I'm not going too fast. A good marketing ROI is somewhat relative. For example, the chart in the upper left-hand corner benchmarks Apple against Dell, HP, IBM, and Toshiba. And we can see the Apple marketing ROI in relation to their pre-tax ROA is quite good. Matter of fact, their ROA could even be higher if they had a slightly better sales to asset ratio. Nevertheless, that Apple is above average in its marketing return on its investment. In other words, it's getting more dollars out per dollar in than any of the 4 other benchmark companies that's shown in that graphic. If we go over to
can you just stop a second? Pre-tax ROA would be return on assets?
Yes.
Okay, just so everyone's clear about that.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's because of income taxes and interest expenses, pre-tax return on assets is a metric that's often used to look at the profit impact of marketing variables.
Got it.
A sample of some Fortune 500 companies, again, the red dot shows Apple's, above average and in both marketing ROI and pre-tax ROA. So the point here is you can, with 3 variables, sales, percent margin, and marketing and sales expenses, measure 3 marketing profitability metrics for a company, a market, a division, a single product, or a market. They're all the same.
Great.
I'm going to introduce 3 more because market share is so important. And this one is actually more intuitive than requiring any specific data. In other words, you are the data generator in this case. And we can get 3 really great marketing metrics out of just the marketing logic that you're carrying between your in your head. So what do we need? We need what 5 events, and these are sequential, is needed for a customer to buy. And I put 5 down here that may not be the same 5 that you would write down, but the customer has to know about our product. In other words, they have to be aware of us or our product. They have to be interested. Obviously, we get them to interested and aware. The price has to be acceptable or be in the range of acceptance. And the D could be a variety of things. I put down, in the case I'm going to use, there has to be a successful trial experience. And then the customer, either based on the experience, buys our product or does not buy. And to operationalize this set of metrics, which is relatively easy, you need 5 estimates of share performance. In other words, without worrying again about perfect information, what % of the potential customers are aware of our product? 60%. Of those that are aware, of the 60% that are aware, because you can't be interested if you're not aware of the product. So of the 60% that are aware, 55% are interested. Okay, we keep building. Of that 55 that are interested, 70% find our price acceptable. Of those that find our price acceptable, we're kind of eliminating people as we go along by either because the price is not acceptable. Of those that find the price acceptable, 50% have a successful trial. And of those, 75% buy. Okay? So that's all the data we need to build 3 really, really useful and important marketing metrics. And here's the operational tool to do that. This is a market share tree. It's a great diagnostic. And it will vary by application, by company, and of course the numbers would be based on your perceptions, and it could be validated internally with other people or externally with market data. So as we go up the share tree, if you're not aware, we have a 40% leakage in market share, or market share potential. So I hope everybody's following me. So of the 60%, only, let's say we have 100 customers, 40 of them just dropped out because they're not full potential customers. 40 dropped out because they're not aware.
So
of
leakage,
the 60,
what you're saying, excuse me, Roger, you're saying by leakage is that's kind of the people that drop off.
That's right.
Okay.
These are the people we're losing at each stage of the, I call them share gates. There's 5 share gates for us to get to a purchase. And if our advertising hasn't reached or our sales force hasn't reached all the people, then we don't really have the opportunity to generate much product interest since they're not even aware of us. So we move up to awareness and we lose 45%. We take 45% of 60, which is 27%. So you can see at the front end of our share tree, we're losing 67% of our share potential on the front end. So this would be a real opportunity for both a marketing communications program or a sales program, whatever it might be, to develop awareness and interest. Because once we move up past interest, we actually get a pretty good okay on price. 70% are saying your price is okay. But what's the other barrier here? 50% have a bad trial. Now that, of course, should be a shocker. That should be fixed. So the two big, even though the share leakage is relatively small, 11.5%, that will get bigger as we begin to improve the awareness and interest statistics or metrics. When we multiply together all of the awareness, 60 times 55 times price, 70% times 50% successful times 75% purchase, this index of 8.5% is created. In other words, those are the 5 things that have to all happen for us to get to a customer purchase. So it's an index of how our share is created. And so what this tells us is what our current index is and where our biggest leakages are in order to improve our market share. So if you could follow the math along, it's pretty simple. It's just multiplication as you're going up the tree, and then whenever you divert off to the gray box is when we lose people, and that's the % that's lost at that juncture of the share tree.
So then of 100 people who are a potential audience, less than 9 of them, 8.7%, are actually buying from us.
That's right.
Got it.
That's right. And we're obviously we're losing a lot at the front end, and we lose people at the trial stage where the trial was not successful in their opinion. And once we get them through there, we have a 75% chance of closing the sale.
Got it.
So another way of looking at this under current, under that table there, there's the 5 share metrics I showed in the tree, and when you multiply them sequentially together, 60% times 55%, dot to dot, times 70 times 50 times 75, we get the 8.7, and that is an index that tells us where we're at relative to these awareness, interest, pricing, trial, and purchase. If we that's one share metric. The share potential index, let's go back a page. What if we said, what's the best we could do on awareness, interest, pricing, success, and purchase? I hope everybody follows. When I say best, in other words, let's say that we think that, let me go back to the next page, we think that if we're really successful, we could get under potential 80% product awareness. And we believe that if we did a better job of explaining our product or demonstrating our product, we could get interest up to 67%. And maybe the upper end on acceptable price is 80%. And 67% successful trial, 80% purchase. When we multiply those 5 together, we get 23%. That becomes another metric that says that's what we're capable of achieving if we were successful at each of these areas of market share performance: awareness, interest, price, trial, and purchase. The share development index, and I hope this isn't too complicated, is just a division of the current divided by the potential. So when we divide the 8.7 by the 23, we get a 38. What's a 38 tell us? We're getting only 38% of our share potential. Where are we losing our share potential? Mainly at the front end in awareness and interest, but also in trial. So this gives us a tool then to say, under analysis, what do we think we can do in the next year or 2 or 3 in addressing these issues? And you can see I modified the numbers to achieve a share index of almost 15%, which would mean then we're at 64% of our total share potential. So this is maybe a little confusing, but once you do it, it's a powerful tool. Your estimates of your building of the share logic is purely based on your perceptions for your market, and your estimates are just as good as anyone else's to start with. And once you have that, we can begin to see where our biggest opportunities for improvement are, but also we can say, well, what's the upper limit on performance in awareness, interest, price acceptance, etc.? What do we think we're capable of? And that gives us a realistic potential. And then the ratio of the two gives us this shared development index, which tells us then how far we still have to go in order to achieve our full potential.
So, Roger, what I like about this is rather than saying, gee, there's a $100 million market out there and we can go after all of it, but we reasonably say, here's the part that we can reasonably get, and what are we doing today? And then from there we see the delta or the difference, and at that point you can set a goal and say, here's our benchmark, this is where we are today, we want to move up here. But we're not looking at capturing 100% of the market. We've gone through this exercise and really identified how much we can reasonably get. And so it's a much more realistic view of what's achievable.
That's exactly right, Linda. And the other thing is, a lot of times if your market share is 10%, everybody wants to make it 15, right? But no one knows how. So this tool allows us to, and the market share index is usually in close approximation to your actual share. So if we can improve our index from 8.7 to 15, roughly almost double, not quite,
Sure.
that means that our actual share should have a similar impact.
Right.
So again, I hope this is simple. I know it may be a little abstract at first, but it's a great tool that you can do on the back of an envelope later today over coffee if you'd like. I'm going to go a little faster, and these last three are relatively less complex, I guess, or less abstract, and also provide great information. What do we need? Well, how big is your served market? That's not always easy. Is the market Northern California, California itself, the West Coast, all of the U.S., North America, or the world? And so that is obviously a metric that we would like to have. But the more difficult one is, what is your market potential? And that's the maximum number of customers if all entered the market. And I'll give you an example in a second for the personal computer market. What is the lowest price that we see this product selling for in the future, realistically? And at that price, what % of the maximum number of customers would be able to enter the market at that price point? So let's look at the personal computer market. The gray bars are actual sales in units per year since 1984. Obviously Intel, Dell, HP, Apple all have this graph. But the real question is, what's the potential? We can see the market is starting to slow a little bit in its growth rate, and we all know it's a maturing market, but where is the ceiling? And that's a metric that's worthwhile understanding. And again, it's not in a book. It's going to come from your own intuition and estimates. So let's take a look at how we would measure that. Okay.
Let's try to move it.
Okay.
Does that work? There we go.
Yep, thank you. So market potential, what's the maximum number of people that could use potentially a PC if they were able to afford one? And there's 6 billion people on Earth roughly, and one number that's thrown out there is 3 billion. But at a price of $7.50, there still would be a lot, maybe 33% of that would not be able to buy the product. There could be other reasons why people don't buy the product. They lack the education, or maybe the infrastructure like electricity to support it, etc. So there's a little bit of a logic. What's the maximum number? What % could buy at a certain price? And what's the purchase rate? Is it 1 per year, 2 per year, or in the case of a PC, we buy one every 5 years on average? So a rough estimate of the personal computer market, if 3 billion people could potentially use a computer, 67% would be able to buy at $7.50, and if they buy every 5 years, which is 0.2 per year, then that means that the market potential is roughly 400 million units per year. And on the right box there, the Market Development Index says if the current market demand is 306 million per year, which it was in 2009, and the potential is 402, then that means that we're 75% up the curve towards full saturation of the PC market. Now that's important because if we're halfway or at the beginning, our biggest goal is to grow. But as we start hitting saturation, we've got to be a little more careful about how we manage production and investment and positioning because we now don't have that growth as an extra benefit going forward. So it's simply a ratio of where we are today to what is the potential at full market saturation. And that's a market development, market share metric that I believe you could, again, do on the back of an envelope with a couple calculations today over coffee if you'd like. I'm just going to wrap up here with a few other comments using marketing metrics to manage profitable growth. The last two metrics that we looked at was the Shared Development Index, and this is an actual data for a medical device that was at about 33% of its market development, and they saw that growing to maybe 50% in the next 3 years. And below the grid, or the graphic, is the Shared Development Index of 38. That was the one we worked with earlier. That was this is actual data for a surgical device used by that's made and marketed and sold by a company in the U.S. And their goal is to build that share to roughly 16%. And again, their potential was 23%. So you can see in the matrix there, the combination of the Market Development Index telling us where we are relative to potential, and the Share Development Index where we are relative to share potential, gives us a great planning guideline to then forecast future market growth rate. So in this page here, we simply added the demand and where it was going in the table and the market share, and then the other assumptions based on their business model with respect to margins, pricing, and discounts, and marketing and sales expenses. So this business, if it's able to keep up with the market growth rate and grow its market share from 10% to 13%, they'll improve their marketing profits from $160 million to roughly $350 million. So this is a very credible story that if I have to go to management and say my marketing budget currently is $240 million, if you see that in the table, and over the next 3 years it's going to have to grow more than double, but in order for that to happen, I need that to happen in order to get the benefit of that profit increase. So that's a way for us to articulate to management the payoff that they're going to get as a result of us investing in this medical device, which has a great growth potential, great market development future, great share development future. It's got 50% margins. Everything's good. It would be a disaster to underinvest in this product at this point. Again, another piece of the closing here is how we have found companies and people to be able to get over the barrier of marketing metrics being overly complex and demystifying them and getting them into implementation in their company. The first thing we need to recognize is adults learn differently than we did in college or elementary or high school. People prefer self-directed applied learning, and new knowledge must be incorporated into existing knowledge. This is all common sense, I think, to anybody that's listening. And so the idea is to apply what you learned today, maybe initially by yourself, or for it to really be effective, it needs to be a group of people, as shown in the diagram subtly to the left. And I'll go to the next slide to explain that a little bit more. Individual learning is a necessary starting point, but it's not sufficient to transfer knowledge to a team or organization one person at a time. Matter of fact, it's almost impossible. So if you learn a marketing metric and you're really excited about its potential, it may not go anywhere unless your team has the same insight and excitement. So team-based actual learning encourages teams to work together in examining marketing metrics that they think might apply to the team, and then apply them to their business so that they can see the immediate payoff of that metric. On this last slide here is just an illustration also of not left side, but this section of a program we have put together where we have software that helps people with the individual learning and preparation. And then in a team meeting, the idea is the team would apply their metrics to their business and then there's a team feedback report and assessment of performance. And we walk through over a 6-month period, 6 sessions, and bringing a team along. Again, the emphasis is team, and so as we work through marketing profitability metrics, the team has to say, do we all understand that? Do we all understand how it applies to our business? Do we want to use these metrics or not? If so, which one? How do we apply it? Let's apply it, get some feedback, and see how it works for our business, our team or company. So that's where the real effects occur. We have done, as Linda mentioned, over 70 teams. I put 50, but it is closer to even 80 or 90 now across 3 companies. It's actually 4 companies now, and over probably 500 managers. And people who've been able to apply the marketing metrics at a team level have been able to achieve, at least in the companies that we worked with, an average increase in marketing profitability of over $5 million, which is a paper profit, but nonetheless a signal of opportunity for profitable growth. And you can see in the program benefits how some of this works. And the quote at the bottom from a team leader, had we launched the market-based price, we could have increased our gross margin by $1.4 million. This is a fairly typical kind of comment we get from our teams throughout the course of a learning session. Again, you can do this by yourself. I'm going to give you some free tools so you can get started if you'd like. You don't need us, but if you want a guided program, we can provide that as well. So what I hope you got, and I wish I could see your faces and be able to interact much more, but I really was hoping I could give you several back-of-the-envelope marketing metrics. You probably can't remember, but for marketing profitability, we needed sales, gross margin, and the marketing and sales spending to achieve that level of sales, whether for a company, a market segment, a product line, a region. We all use the same math tools to get those 3 metrics. For market share, we share tree that allowed us to see how a customer moves from awareness to interest to price acceptance, trial, and purchase. And from that, we were able to build a share index, a share potential index, and then a development index. With market metrics, we said, well, what is our market today? What could it be at a certain price point in the future? And that ratio gave us a market development index. So again, I think all these can be done with just your personal estimates. And as the words at the bottom of this tab says, greater precision and validation can be added as you need it. Let's just get started in getting over this hump of mystery of marketing metrics and get a feel for how they work and the usefulness of them. I'm just going to point out a few things that are optional. On our website, it's at the very bottom of the slide deck. You can't see it here. Is a 10-minute tutorial video on marketing profitability metrics. So if you wanted to go back and learn more about that first section of marketing profitability, this tutorial video is available at no charge. It's sitting on our website, and you could master those metrics as well as use the slides we had provided.
And let me just stop a second there, Roger. The website there is www.marketingmetricshandbook.com, and there's an S at the end of metrics. And also, these slides will be available. They are available now, actually, on my website, which is www.l2m, for leverage to market, l2massociates.com/webinars/RogerBest, one word. So l2massociates.com/webinars/RogerBest, and we will also send this out to everyone who attended, so you'll be able to access the slides and see this afterwards.
Yeah, at the bottom of you can't see it, but at the bottom of the slide is the website. But at any rate, if you're inclined to just spend 10 minutes to get a refresher on what we did at the very beginning, and again, we use the Apple example, so it'll be familiar to you. a little more detail, but it's only 10 minutes, and it ends with how a team could move forward in applying it to their business. Gives you little instructions if your team wanted to try this out. So that's something you could do anytime, and there's no charge for that, of course. Another thing that's on the website are 15 marketing blogs. They're one page, very, very short. In each case, I use a graphic, and then very, very simple language. There's 5 marketing profitability metrics, but there's also the market and share metrics we talked about, as well as other metrics we didn't talk about today. These are one-page examples with many, in all cases, real-world company applications. And again, these are there for people to use that are interested in learning more at no charge. Finally, if you're in a company that's publicly traded, I'd be willing to benchmark your company. It's something that we offer on our website to anybody that goes there. And you can pick your sector, whether you're B2B, B2C, energy, materials, high-tech, in aerospace, or service and retail, and we'll pull out the Fortune 500 companies, their relationship between marketing ROI and pre-tax ROA, and I'll plot you in there, your company, and send it back to you. So if you want that benchmarking, we'd be glad to do that as part of this opportunity to talk to you today.
That's great.
Finally, there's another way to contact me at the bottom. Should all else fail, you can contact me direct by phone or email. And I don't mean to bore you with my background, but just as a background, so if it matters, it's there for future reference. So Linda, that really takes us to a little past 45 minutes, and maybe there's some questions, or maybe you have some questions.
Okay. Well, if anyone has a question, what I'm going to do is I'm going to unmute you, I hope. I'm trying to unmute you. Let's see if I can do that. Hold on a second as I try and figure this out. And I'm trying to determine how to unmute everyone. But why don't we do that? In the meantime, if you have a question, just actually just put it in through the question and send a written question. There's a comment from Catherine Smith. I find Roger's metrics and graphics very helpful in understanding this measurement strategy. Well done. Thank you, Catherine. I'm glad that's useful. Is there anyone else who has a question to do that? Well, I'm having trouble right now unmuting everybody. But if you can ask that in writing, that would be helpful. I do have a couple of questions, Roger. We hear a lot about social networking and web, and how do you find out those marketing metrics? We can get a lot of analytics from, say, Google, and we can tell how many followers we have on Twitter, but how do you integrate those types of marketing metrics into a bigger marketing strategy? Roger, are you there? Oops. Hello? I'm hoping you can hear me. Roger? Oh, Roger, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, sorry. Could you hear me there? We had trouble. I think we had.
I think you, in the process of doing some other things,
I muted you. Sorry. So you heard my question.
Could you? I got your question. Could you advance the slide so I got to go back to.
Sure.
Somehow I'm locked up.
Okay, let me see if we can figure this out here. Apologies for that.
Just probably click on something and.
Yeah, let's get the slides going. There we go.
There we go. Okay. Well, okay. I want to get back to the share tree, but.
Yeah, let me get you back.
Okay,
there.
we're going now.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. Linda's question was about social media, and there are two things. There is a metric called Net Promoter Index, and that is after you've implemented your social media program, and you can track people, who have been touched by that program, what percent would actually make a strong recommendation to others? And that's something you can Google. Just Google Net Promoter Score, and it's a very, very easy measurement, and it's a nice metric to find out, is it having any effect at all on word-of-mouth communication? That's one metric. The second is you can actually build a share tree around your social media marketing effort. In other words, what's the first step of the social media? What are you trying to accomplish? What is it that's going out there? Is it a blog, a Twitter, or Facebook? What's the first stage of building interest or awareness or even excitement? And so you could work your way up the tree. In other words, logically, what percent have seen your blog? What percent found it interesting? What percent recommended it to others? What percent have found it useful? And then what percent maybe actually become a customer or strongly recommend it to others as a customer? So the share tree is one way you can build. Instead of building market share, the question might be, what 5 things have to happen in our social media program to move someone from nothing to something? And of course, you have to define that something. So that would be my answer at this point, Linda.
Okay. So we can get those analytics. We can get those. We can understand everything from how many people are following us to who's clicked on a blog entry or something. But the key point to transfer that to being useful metrics is to build this type of share tree and say what happens from step 1 to step 2, and eventually there has to be some kind of outcome that we're looking for from doing this, which is, I think, where we get lost sometimes. Yep.
Whether it's I intend to tell other people, or I did tell other people, or results in a purchase. I'm not sure how far you can go, but obviously, if you're just throwing social media dollars at the wall and you have no idea of how it's progressing up the share tree or up the customer, let's say, customer response tree, then we don't know how effective it is.
Exactly. Okay. I'm going to try this once more. I think I've figured this out. So what I am doing is I'm in the process of unmuting you all, and I'd like to ask if anyone has a question for Roger that you'd like to, we may hear some noise here. Right.
Unmuted.
Do I have anybody who has a question?
Linda, can you hear me?
I can. Who's that?
It's Ann Iverson.
Hi, Ann. How are you?
Good. I wrote my question into the control panel, but I'm not sure if you.
Let me
I'm
look.
hearing it.
Let's see what we have here. Why don't you just tell us your question?
Okay. I'm working with a non.
Oh, you there?
And yeah, can you hear me?
Sure, go ahead. I think we've got you quiet now, so you can talk.
Okay, that's great. No, I think the echo went away.
Yes.
Anyway, I'm working with a nonprofit, and they have 2 parts of their business, and one is really focused on fundraising and policymakers and that side of the spectrum. But they also have a side of their business where they're selling products and services for revenue. And when I look at this would be really fantastic to share with them. But the bottom box on awareness, how do you go about figuring out, mind share, the percentage of people that are aware of an organization. The other boxes I think we can probably estimate, but the awareness box is kind of a mystery to me.
Well, first of all, that's a great question and a critical one. And the judgments of people that run the business are often the starting point. And so we would come up with, if awareness was low, we would say, well, our own assessment is that we need to build our awareness. But the fact that we don't know, we don't have a lot of confidence in that number means we probably could do just a very, very simple survey via 100 people, whether it's a web survey or a telephone survey or any others, just to find out of the potential customers how many are aware of your products and services. And
right. So you need to get.
Go ahead.
So you need to get a list of people for the survey, because obviously you don't want people that are already on your list because they are aware of you. So
it doesn't matter, actually. Let's just say we had a list of 100 people that would be either members or aware or not aware, and out of that we'd find that 60 are aware of us, and maybe we could ask the question for the ones who are aware, how interested or how are you in our service or nonprofit organization. So you really, for even the people who are aware, you could go up the share tree and validate the other information.
Okay.
So, but like you said, if you find out that 40% of the people are not aware, there's really no more questions except maybe to say, could we send you some information to at least take advantage of that opportunity?
Great. Okay.
All right.
Hillary, I've just unmuted you, and it looks like you have a question.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. So my question was, on the market share index that you derive, which I think this is a great tool, how does that compare with the actual market share I know I have? So, for example, I know I have, through means of my own, about a 15% share of the market, but this leads me to 8.7. Do I use that to go backwards, or how do I reconcile those two numbers, or do I?
No, first of all, it should be, if it's 15%, it's 8.7. That means either you include some things that either include some things that aren't important, that have low numbers and are lowering your share. In other words, or maybe some of the estimates in the share tree are off. So I would go back and try to think, okay, are our estimates right? Or maybe I should recalibrate my estimates, because we don't really exactly know all these percentages. And since we're so far low, let's adjust some of them that we think might be higher up, and try to get that a little bit closer to reality. What we have found is that when the numbers are way off, it means that either we've included something that's not important, that's lowering share, where we have a low performance, or if our share index is really high and our share is low, we might be overestimating the numbers in the share tree. So yeah, I think I obviously don't want to change your actual share. That's reality. But if it doesn't come up pretty close, I'd go back and try to rethink the statistics we put in there and see if some of them might be a little bit higher to get you a little bit closer to reality. In the end, it's not so much how close the index is to your actual share. In the end, the index is telling you where you need to work to improve your share. So, but I'd like to get closer to begin with.
Okay.
I have some companies actually that are maybe taking it too far, and let's say they had a 15% share, and it usually wouldn't come up 8.7, but if it did, they would remodel if they were comfortable with the steps in the share tree, they would remodel the numbers to get it to actually 15%. That's how they wanted to do it. So I'm not recommending that, but that is the approach some have taken.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Roger. We're just about out of time, so are there any closing words you'd like to tell us a little bit more? Maybe just mention your Marketing Metrics Handbook and just give us some final thoughts about how we can get started in this process.
Well, my first goal was hopefully to let you know that we can do these 9 metrics that I presented today on the back of an envelope. If you're on an airplane, even without a calculator, and I hope you try a few. That's my first goal. We developed, at the request of clients, we developed a software tool to make this easier. So all you gotta do is, type in the share tree names, and it'll build a tree, and just put in your numbers, and you can adjust them. So the software tool, the Marketing Metrics Handbook, is there to give you a kind of like a TurboTax version of market share metrics that allow you to enter data and easily use it. And all the graphics are there's a cut and paste tool. So all the things you see here are just grabbed from the handbook and stuck into this PowerPoint presentation. Anyway, online at the website, you can download a 30-day demo, and there's a lot of information there. And should you be interested, you can contact me, and I can explain more in greater detail. But thanks so much, Linda, for giving me this opportunity to talk to your team.
Okay, and I want to thank everyone who took an hour out of your day to join us. I hope this was useful. You can reach me if you have any questions at linda@popky.com. We will be following up, and we will be sending out to you the URL so you can get the slides, and you can follow up and get the free information from Roger's website. So I want to thank you again for joining us, and we hope this has been useful for you. Thank you.